Meet the Robinsons is actually quite a depressing story about two individuals who are two sides of the same coin. In life, it is pretty much inevitable that you're going to encounter trials and tribulations. And whilst you'll never really be able to control the future and know what's coming next, and additionally you can't really control what happens in this world, you can however control how you react to your emotions. Nevertheless, having a full understanding that you are the one controlling this ship in relation to how you react to your emotions seems to be something unfortunately neglected and overlooked by the vast majority of people. And that's typically the case when that mindset hasn't been instilled in an individual from a young age. Instead of simply acknowledging the presence of an emotion but knowing that you have the power to control how you react to said emotion, many people tend to get lost in it, being consumed by the constructs of their own mind. This brings me applicably to a character called Goob, who transforms into the bowler hat guy later on in the movie. But what sequence of events occurred to cause such disastrous deconstruction and dismantling of Goob's future? Well, first of all, let me introduce him more formally so we can take a look at what led him down such a dreadful and miserable path. Meet Mike Goob Yagoobian. Yes, that's his full name, and I bloody hope I didn't butcher it. So Goob is roommates with Lewis Robinson, who's the main character of the movie, and unfortunately they're both in the system hoping to one day get adopted. With Lewis in particular, it's rather evident to see that he's really going through a mental crisis, a young mind contending with persisting thoughts of not being good enough. And whilst Lewis and Goob have Mildred, who clearly has a deeply compassionate heart and wants to see them succeed, the persevering aching calls from his heart, longing for his mother, fail to cease. So the days continue to go by and nobody seems to want to adopt Lewis because of his eccentricities. You see, it will take a very particular individual to be able to mesh well with Lewis, someone who would fully be willing to try and understand who he is as a character and who would happily and willfully embrace his differences, encouraging him to be the best version of himself instead of foregoing anything uniquely him. You see, Lewis has a smart mind, always eager to explore and innovate and discover new things. Lewis is an inventor and all it takes is someone who can understand who he is as a person. But after the enduring wounds of constant rejection, Lewis almost wants to give up. Thankfully, Lewis had a woman like Mildred on his side, someone who is so deeply understanding, compassionate, and always trying to motivate him to be the best version of himself. And also, can I add that she's absolutely beautiful, an absolute rocket of a woman. My god, that beautiful forehead is blinding me. I hope she's thinking about how we can spend our lives together. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Goob is Lewis's roommate, and honestly speaking, Lewis is a bit of a shitty one, constantly up at all hours of the night working on his invention. And these aren't even inventions, let's be honest, it's just pure magic. Like, how the hell did he make that TV read my mind and show me what happened in my past? This guy isn't a scientist, he's not an inventor, he's a superhero. And if someone was actually that smart in real life, let's be honest, the government will be trying to snatch them up immediately. But because of Lewis's never-ending scientific endeavours, Goob's sleep was heavily affected, causing him to underperform during an upcoming sports event he had. And his lack of performance due to being absolutely sleep deprived causes him to get bullied by his peers, unfortunately. So now, not only is he too going through the trials and tribulations of being a child in the system, but he's also getting bullied by his teammates. I remember the very first time I saw this, and this really broke my heart, seeing how he was changing over time, from being such a chill guy to letting the manifestation of anger and hatred fester in his heart. And as he grew older, his depth of animosity and hatred just grew larger and larger, until it was absolutely insurmountable. And guess who he pins all the blame on for everything that goes wrong in his life from that very point in time where his team lost the game? His life seems to have gone in a painful downwards trajectory. All that hatred, anger and bitterness coming to an amalgamation of absolute discontent and vitriol towards Lewis, because he blames Lewis for everything that's gone wrong in his life. After all, it was because of Lewis and him making all his inventions that he was so tired that day that he lost the team the game, and he let this hatred marinate in his heart until it became one with his soul. And he lives with this raging fire of antipathy towards Lewis, while Lewis lives completely unaware to the situation. And whilst Lewis was, yes, being very inconsiderate, doing all of this shit at night and keeping Goob awake, he clearly didn't do it intentionally. But that doesn't really matter. Unknowingly, Lewis has created his worst enemy. Goob aside, Lewis ends up getting visited by Wilbur, his future son, and he comes in a time machine. Well, obviously, they both end up going to the future, and Lewis starts to see what his future has in store. A loving family, people that care about him, and he's actually made a difference in the world. Now, the reason Wilbur's even there in the first place is to try and locate the missing time machine, a time machine that was taken by future Goob, who surely is holding the record for holding the longest grudge. And future Goob plans to use this machine to seek out revenge and finally get his get back for what he felt was wrongdoing by Lewis so many years ago. But you see, the thing is, Goob has lived in this misery and agony and pain and anger for so long that his own misery has become become his comfort zone, becoming a perpetual victim of his own undoing. Goob is a truthful depiction of a person unable to let go of his past, holding on so tight to that can no longer be changed, that his past has now become the determining factor to his future, because he himself has willed it that way, having the ever-sinking mentality that just because things were bad in the past, it means I can't do anything about it now. I may as well live in misery for the rest of my life. That sort of mindset leads you nowhere but perpetual misery and emptiness. An emptiness that you might try to excuse by blaming absolutely everybody else in your life for the actions that you have made, but know deep down that you've made absolutely no attempts to change or better your life in any sort of way, simply succumbing to your emotions and letting them control you rather than controlling your emotions. But of course that can be a lot easier said than done, especially because not everyone is privileged to have had a good upbringing, so unfortunately they weren't given all the tools needed to traverse through life. The understanding and knowledge that how well you're able to control your emotions says a lot about your character and how much easier life can really feel when you decide to take control of your mind and not let your mind take control of you. But like I said, that's easier said than done, especially if you've grown up for several decades with a certain mindset. Changing something about yourself that's developed over so many years or decades can be a very hard process, so it takes a lot of trials and tribulations and self-reflection and actually wanting to improve as an individual to get to that stage that you're aiming for. And whilst Lewis might be the antithetical representation of Goob, it's blatantly clear that he too might have been going down a path of holding on to the past, if not for the experiences that he had going into the future, and seeing what his life had in store, especially after realizing what Goob had become because he held on so strongly to the past. Lewis wanted so strongly to be able to see his mother once again, to be able to live a life with his mother, to be able to ask her why she just left him, and now he had an opportunity because of this time machine. But of course, interfering with the stream of time would change how things worked out in the future. But despite this, Lewis's future son Wilbur decides to still keep his promise that he made earlier on in the movie to take him to see his mother once they had found the time machine and everything was resolved. Of course, hoping that he'd realize all the good and all the great things he has coming up in his future, and that just because his past may have not gone the way he liked, it doesn't mean he can't forge the future that he wants. But of course, that desire to see his mother was still strong and palpable, so it takes him walking right up to the staircase behind her, while she's not even aware that her future son is there, for him to finally realize what has happened has happened. There's no point continuously looking in the past. Instead, like the movie's motto says, keep moving forward and forge the life that you want. But unfortunately, Goob didn't really have anybody with him in his time of need to be able to push him in the right direction, and even if he did, he would have pushed them away, so deeply consumed with wrath and his perception that Lewis is the one who ruined his entire life. And as time continued to pass by and Lewis was achieving all these things, while Goob remained stagnant in his own mind, the pool of hatred nested within his heart started to billow over. Thus time continued to march on whilst Goob remained stuck, and the anger and hatred that once formed thunderous storms in his head had now become his comfort zone. Hatred, his bed. Anger, his mattress. Bitterness, his pillow, and envy, his duvet. So consumed by the past that he became oblivious to the fact that there was still a future. All too often do people fall victim to the instabilities of their own emotion, not realizing that they have the potential and ability to control how they react to anything at any given time, not having to succumb to the whims of your emotions. Understanding that you can take control, that it's your decision to decide how you'll react to it. It's your decision to decide how you'll react to a certain situation. Whether you will let it affect you or know that you can still pave the way into the life that you want despite all the hiccups that you may face. Life is never really straightforward. It's full of ups and downs, and many times things are not going to work out how you want. But however you decide to encounter certain hurdles in life can definitely make your life a lot easier or a lot harder. You have the control. You have the power. Your destiny's in your hand. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Forget the past. I know things can be shitty, and I know getting to where you want to might be very difficult, but just know that you have what it takes. Keep pushing forward, keep marching on, stay strong, stay humble, and keep moving forward. Do not become a victim of your own mind. Anyways, that's about it. I've got nothing else to say. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate you being here. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you all in the next video, whenever the hell that's gonna be. Goodbye.